myself right at the moon. Dance myself right at the moon. Is it strange to dance so soon? I dance myself into the tomb, and then again once more.
I guess my name will live longer than any record. I am the cosmic dancer who dances his way out of the womb. I am a lifestyle. I am my fantasy.
He lived on Fantasy Island. He had such an ego that he couldn't ever let the guard down, because that's exposing himself as a mere mortal.
Personally, the prospect of immortality does not excite me, but the prospect of being a materialistic idol for 4 years does.
Well, the first time I came across T.Rex was such a life-transforming moment that it wasn't just changing, your own life as a fan, but the world itself was being changed. How you dressed, about how you sounded, what you talked about. And it was all kind of condensed into this one experience.
I like being loved. Isn't it nice that someone can love you enough to put your picture on their bedroom wall? The frightening thing is the sheer strength of it all.
Fame was the drug for Marc. He regarded it as a game, the fame game. In some respects, he was the boy next door. Mothers thought he was quite sweet, and the girls knew better.
It's ironic being called a male sex symbol when I'm prettier than most of the chicks.
He was obviously male, but at the same time, he was free of his masculinity. So this man was a revolutionary.
He was their fan, and they were his fans. They wanted a piece of him. There was a lot of hardship and pressure. He's human. He hurts like everyone hurts.
I've always known I was different right from the start, right from the moment I was born. When I was younger, I certainly thought I was a superior sort of being. I was very much into my own little world in those days.
Hackney is one of the first multi-racial areas in our part of East London. We had the Hasidic Jews, Jamaican families coming across. Never ever any animosity between people.
He lived with his mother, father, and brother Harry. And the father, Simi, was a lorry driver. Phyllis, his mother, worked in Berwick Street Market on a fruit stall. His mother, rest the soul, would spoil him. Whatever he wanted, she would give him.
My mum, Marc, and I, and my dad, we were a very close-knit family.
Marc's mother wasn't Jewish, his father was. But he was Jewish enough for the rest of us.
Marc was named after my uncle Marc, one of my dad's brothers, and he was killed while he was in the army by a sergeant major. He was clubbed to death with a truncheon, and his gravestone's marked as a Jewish soldier. Apparently, at the trial, a sergeant major said, "All you're suitable for will be Belson," and that was in a newspaper report. Marc knew who he was named after. if Mark thought he was going to be in trouble, like if somebody picked on him, he'd take on a character that was stronger than the guy who was having a go at him. The character that he would use for this bravado was Mighty Joe Young. My mum took us to see the film, and as soon as he saw it, that was his character. Yeah, well, he dealt with life in his own mind.
As a little kid, I was always into music, very much. I used to just look in the mirror and wiggle about. I was completely knocked out by my own image, by the idea of Mark Feld and what he would become.
We were big fans of Elvis, but my mother took us to see The Girl Can't Help It. And we saw, for the first time, Eddie Cochran on screen. We'd seen photos of him, but actually singing, I think, 20 Flight Rock. And Mark just fell in love with him immediately. He was Mark's hero.
I remember seeing Eddie Cochran. The way he held his guitar and moved. Looked good, you know. Little Richard put his foot on the piano, and that was very outrageous. I think Elvis was the man, because he really used to wiggle his bum, you know. He used to get down and that, which influenced me incredibly. That, to me, was the ultimate showman thing.
We didn't want to be bus drivers or train drivers or footballers. We wanted to be rock and roll singers. Mark and I were the two Jewish kids, a double act called Rick and Ellis. And Mark and I actually sang at the famous Two Eyes Coffee Bar on Old Compton Street. I think we sang Bye Bye Love. I can't imagine how bad it would have been, as neither of us were particularly good singers. Nonetheless, he had something. There was something there. He was a VIP. He was 11, for Christ's sakes. We went to a lot of dances. Saturday nights we'd go to Tweeters, which was in a synagogue hall.
I spent all my time there not going to school. I mean, I purposely did not go. For me, clothes were wisdom and knowledge. All I cared about was creating a sort of material vision of what I wanted to be. I was at the forefront of the mod movement. In those days, I created a world where I was king of my neighbourhood. I was always a star, even if it was only a star of 3 streets in Hackney.
Growing up in Hackney gave him the street smarts, gave him that defensive, external presence that he wouldn't let people in too far. You couldn't figure Mark out, you know, like, he had a depth to him, like there were doors in his mind I could never unlock.
My king, just like fame.
When they featured me in Town magazine with Don McCullen's photos, they made us all look like a bunch of convicts, got very hard-looking pictures. But I was in it, and I'd ascended to Olympus. It was instant immortality.
Don't you remember that you're just a London fool?
It was then that my family moved out of Hackney, and I went from being a self-styled cult king to a nobody. It was a time of great spiritual crisis for me.
No one knows my name. People all look the same. I walk unnoticed steps. They don't know my rep. Flats, over the flats, over the flats, over the flats.
I was basically a romantic, and Rambo was the first poet who really rocked me. When I first read him, I felt like my feet were on fire. I dreamed of voyages of discovery that nobody had heard of. I boasted of inventing with rhythms from within me a kind of poetry that all the senses would recognize, and I alone would be its translator. I went to Paris for about 6 months then. I met this man who was a black magician.
Walk walking in the woods one day, I met a man who said he was magic, wonderful things he said.
He had a big chateau on the left bank, crucified live cats there. Sometimes they used to eat human flesh, just like chicken bones from a cauldron. I do lie a lot, you know. I feel that my credibility as a poet allows me to make things up.
When Marc came back, he admitted that The Wizard, this extraordinary song he'd made before he met him, actually he'd gone to France, gone to a gay club, met a guy who was a conjurer and stayed overnight with him. But it gave him, that's how Marc came up with his songs. He'd meet in an ordinary situation, he would find something which he could develop and turn into a huge fantasy.
I was very into magic, but what happened was I had to earn a living in between, you see. So I chose music as the only thing I really knew anything about and that I cared about. And I just worked very hard at it through the years. And, you know, I decided to write my songs, my own songs, after hearing Dylan, I think it was, before he in fact got big. And I thought if he can sing like that, I can play guitar that bad, I can do it, you know.
I went to the war to fight for that cause, was I wrong? Now my sunlight red, the smell of that dead lingers on.
When he first came to see me, he said, we don't really need to make a record. If we just put a poster up all over London of me, I'll be a big star. He was so full of himself. I know you could call it what you'd call it. You couldn't call it resilience so much as just obsession with himself. And one of the things he told me at dinner when we were talking about his heroes and the people he emulated, Chet Baker was a hero of his, and James Dean was a huge hero. And I said, well, be careful of having James Dean as a hero because you might end up dying in a Porsche. And he said, oh, I'm just tiny. He said, I'd like to die in a Mini.
He didn't foresee his own death, but he had an inkling. He had a nagging fear that he wouldn't live to see old age. Just maybe a feeling that some people have that they're destined to take a certain path and it's going to terminate early. That is one theme running throughout his life.
Come the sunset run across the sky, cosmic eye, it's for you and no one else. Come the sunset run across the sky, see it cry for you and no one else. Love you, girl, I do love you.
One thing you could see at once, he was absolutely, totally ambitious. An artist has got to have this total driving ambition. It's not even ambition, it's total obsession that they can't live without becoming a star. And he had that. The very first night I met him, after he'd sung in my armchair for 45 minutes, I took him to a recording studio. And there was this amazing song called Hippie Gumbo, which is the one I picked to record first. Met a man, he was nice. He said his name was Paradise. I didn't realise at the time that his face and mind were mine.
Met a man, he was nice. Said his name was Paradise. Didn't realize at the time that his face and mind were mine. Hippie Gumbo,
And that struck me as so in line with classic pop connections and how you fall in love by inventing another person on the face of the person you see. So I thought that would be a really commercial song. And of course it wasn't commercial, nobody liked it, nobody bought it. And when I came back home and told Marc, I've seen all these people and they've all said no, he was absolutely mortified. I mean, he ran to the toilet, I heard him vomiting.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no direction at all. I just knew something was going to happen.